Hello everyone, welcome to the channel Top Gate. In this video, we'll see the elimination of useless symbols or productions. So in the previous video, we have started with the simplification of the CFG, and in that one we have seen that whenever we are simplifying any context-free grammar, in that one we have to perform three different steps. The first step was to eliminate all the useless symbols. The second one was to eliminate all the null productions. The third one was to eliminate all the unit productions. So in this video, I'll focus on to the very first method, that is the elimination of useless symbols or productions. Now in this one, we have seen that we have two things to look on. The first thing is the derivability, and the second thing that we'll look on is the reachability. Now, what is this reachability and derivability? So, derivability is actually, we'll see that every variable should derive some terminal string. That means in the production rules, onto the right hand side of every variable, there should be any combination of only small letters or only terminals. Clear? So that is the derivability. So if there is any variable which is not deriving any terminal string either directly or indirectly, then that variable has to be eliminated. That becomes my useless symbol. Correct? Second thing is reachability. Now in this one we'll see that every variable should be reachable from the start variable. So if there is any variable to which I am not able to reach onto from the start variable, then that variable is also a useless symbol, and therefore this also has to be eliminated. Clear? So let's start doing this example. So we have this example. In this one, you can see that we have 1, 2, 3 production rules. We have s tends to xy, s tends to 0, and we have x tends to 1. So in that one, we have to eliminate all the useless symbols. So before finding the useless symbols, I'll first try to find out how many symbols in this one are useful. Clear? So useful symbols are, let's find out. So first of all the terminals, all the small letters will always be the useful symbols. That means we have 0 and 1, the terminals here. So 0 and 1, they will become my useful symbols. Clear? Now in the second step, what I'll do, I'll try to find out those variables onto the right hand side of which we have the combination of these useful symbols. Okay, like on the right hand side, if we can get 0, or we can get 1, or we can get any combination of 1 and 0 only. So those variables will also become my useful symbols. Let's see. So we have s tends to 0, you can see. That means s is also a useful symbol. Since s is deriving a useful symbol, therefore s is also a useful symbol. Okay. Similarly, if you can see, we have x tends to 1, and 1 is here in this category. Therefore, x also becomes my useful symbol. So therefore, I'll write this x here. Now, if you can see y, since y is not deriving any terminal string, that means this y cannot come here. So this is my useless symbol, and therefore y has to be eliminated, and we will eliminate all the production rules wherever there is y onto the right hand side. Clear? So if you can see that we have this xy here, that means this is a useless production rule, and therefore this has to be eliminated. Why? Because this y is actually a useless symbol, since it is not falling in the useful symbols category. So therefore it is a useless symbol, and therefore this y has to be eliminated from every production rule. Okay. So after eliminating these useless symbols, the grammar that I'll get is s tends to 0 and x tends to 1. So this production rule will be eliminated. Clear? So now the first step is complete. Now second step is the reachability. That means every variable should be reachable from the start variable. So if you can see here that from s there is no means to come on to x. So therefore this x is also a useless symbol, since it is not reachable from the start variable. Hence this also has to be eliminated, and my final grammar will be s tends to 0. So this is only what we have got. Okay, so now let's move on to the next example. You can see here we have SAB, we have 3 variables, and in that one you can see we have 0 and 1, so only 2 terminals, and we have 3 non-terminals also. So in that one also, we'll first try to find out the useful symbols. Okay, so in this one, the useful symbols are, first of all, what I'll do, I'll just put all the small letters or the terminals in the useful symbols category. That means 0 is my useful symbol and 1 is also my useful symbol. Now in the second step, what I'll do, I'll try to find out those variables onto the right hand side if I am getting any combination of zeros and ones. So if you can see here that S derives 1 1. So 1 is in the useful symbols category. Therefore, S also becomes my useful symbol. Clear? Similarly, if you can see A, so A is again deriving 0, that is 0 is falling in the category of useful symbols. Therefore, A is also my useful symbol. Now let's move on to B. For B, if you can see that we have BB, that means this B is not falling in the useful symbols category. Hence, this B is a useless symbol and therefore B has to be eliminated. So I will eliminate the production rule for B as well as I will eliminate all those production rules wherever there is B onto the right hand side. Clear? If you can see, we have B here, we have B here. So this has to be eliminated, this has to be eliminated, and this one has to be eliminated. So what I'm left with? I'm left with S tends to 1 1 A slash 1 1, and we are left with A tends to 0. That's it. So this one is eliminated, this one and this one are also eliminated. Okay, so first point is over. Now move on to the second one, that is reachability. Reachability means we'll try to find out those variables which are not reachable from the start variable. So in this one, we have only one extra variable other than S, and onto this A, I can reach from the start variable. So you can see here, S tends to 1 1 A. That means I am able to reach on to A from this S. Hence, this A is a useful symbol and therefore this will not be eliminated, and this becomes my final grammar without the useless symbols. So let's see one more example here. So you can see that we have 1 2 3 4 5 variables, and in that one we have to identify all the useless symbols and production rules. So before finding out the useless symbols, I'll first try to find out the useful symbols. So the useful symbols are, first of all the small letters or the terminals will become my useful symbols. So we have only two small letters, A and B. So A and B will become my useful symbol for the moment. Clear? Now we'll try to find out those variables onto the right hand side. We are getting any combination of A's and the B's. Okay. So if you can see here, S, we are not getting any combination of A and B. So till now S is not useful. Move on to A. So if you can see, from A we have A, and A is in the list of the useful symbols. Therefore, A will also become my useful symbol. Clear? Okay. Now again we have this one. If you can see B, so that means we have B, B, A. So B, B, A is actually falling in this category. So B, B and A all are falling in the category of the useful symbols. Therefore, B will also become my useful symbol. Okay. Now let's move on to C. So for C, if you can see, we have A, B, C. C is not in this category, and A, D, B, A, B are there, but D is not in the category. So let's move on to the D. So for D, you can see we have B and D. B is there, but D is not here, and A is there, but C is not there. So till now, C and D are useless symbols. Now S, we have A and B. So this A and B all are present in this useful category. So therefore, S is also my useful symbol. Clear? And this C and D, since they are not having any combination of a complete combination of all the useful symbols, therefore C and D are my useless symbols. Hence, they have to be eliminated. Okay, so this production rule have to be eliminated, and wherever we are getting C and D onto the right hand side, that production rule also has to be eliminated. Clear? So after eliminating all these useless symbols and productions, what I'll get, first of all, we have S tends to A, B, because in this one I'm not getting C and D, so AB will be there, but this AC will be eliminated. Why? Because this C is actually a useless symbol. Clear? So this one has to be eliminated. Now let's move on to the next one. So we have A tends to A, B, again a useful production. Then we have BAA. So BAA, again it's a useful production. Then we have A, so this will remain as it is. Then let's move on to the B. So for B, if you can see, we have BBA, a useful production. Then we have AAB, again useful production. Then we have A, B, again a useful production, and C and D have to be eliminated. So I'm just eliminating this C and D here. Okay, so this is after the step 1, that is we are trying to find out all those variables which are not deriving any terminal string. Now the second point says that we have to find out those variables which are not reachable from the start variable. So if you can see that we have A and B variables other than S, and to those variables I can reach from the start variable. Hence this becomes my useful productions, and this is my final grammar after the removal of the useless symbols or production rules. Now let's see one more example here. So you can see here that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 variables, and in this one we have to find out the useless symbols and production rules. So the first thing that we'll see is the useful symbols. So useful symbols, we have first of all the small letters or the terminals. So the terminals in this case we can see we have A, B and C. So I'll get this A, B and C as a useful symbol first. Now second step, I'll see that what are the variables which are deriving any combination of A, B, C onto their right hand side. So if you can see we have this A is deriving small a, so A is again a useful symbol. And similarly we have C, and this C is also deriving a small letter, therefore this is also a useful symbol. And if you can see S, since S is deriving C, therefore this S is also a useful symbol, since C is in the category of the useful symbols, therefore these variables are my useful symbols. So out of these S, A, B, C, only B is not a useful symbol, otherwise all are useful symbols. So B is my useless symbol, hence this has to be eliminated. And all the production rules, wherever we are finding B onto the right hand side, capital B onto the right hand side, that has to be eliminated. So if you can see, we can eliminate this one and we can eliminate this one. So the final list of productions that I'll get after the removal of useless symbols will be S tends to capital C, and then what do we have? We have A tends to small a capital A slash A, and then we have C tends to small c. Clear? Okay, so now step 1 is complete. Step 2 says that we have to eliminate those variables which are not reachable from the start variable. So if you can see that this A is not reachable from the start variable, therefore this A has to be eliminated. So from S I can only reach on to C, and there is no A, therefore this A has to be eliminated. So final list of productions that I'll get after the elimination of this useless symbol, I'll get S tends to C and C tends to small c. So that is my leftover grammar after the removal of the useless symbols. Clear? So I hope this is clear to you now. Thank you so much.